I start off at outstanding. You know why? Everybody and everything in this country, in your life, rules you. You get very few choices over anything in your life. Raise your hand how many choices you had today. You really didn't have a whole lot. Because you're really following either some kind of laws, or you're following some kind of structure, or you're following some kind of plan, or you don't get to decide, how many hours you work, because somebody else dictates all that. Your customers dictate it, or your boss dictates it. Your wife dictates it. No, your husband's, sometimes they dictate it. But you got very few choices. I decided early on. So if I'm gonna have a choice of whether I'm excited about life, I choose to be excited. I know some people every time you see them, man. I was like, where's the anchor around your neck? I know they're about to throw themselves in the ocean. So I'm not going to be like that. Because life is about perspective. Amen? Who knows that? Life's a little bit about perspective. It's a little bit about how you look at it, right? Now, I'm not even talking about the glass half full or half empty or whatever it is. I'm talking about when you ain't got nothing in your glass, and you're not sitting there crying about, I ain't got nothing in my glass. Heck, apparently the Lord didn't want me to have anything in my glass today. I'll just wait till He puts something in there, I don't know, I'll make the best of what I got. I remember when I was in the military, everybody crying. We went through basic training, and we're sleeping out in the rocks and the dirt, and it's cold. And man, I had a great old time. Everybody was mad. They were, what are you happy about? I said, man, this is great. So how many times we get to do this? Just once. I had a good time sleeping on the rocks. Some people don't. Some people hate that stuff, I like when my wife's mad. My wife gets fiery. She got a short temper, and she's all sweet after she's mad. And I just look forward to the sweet part. I just look forward to good hugs. I got a good woman. Some of y'all know my wife. Some of you know my wife for a long time. My wife's a good woman. She works hard, takes care of them 5 Davids. That's not easy. And she tells everybody she's got 6 kids, so I'm still trying to figure that out. But I know God's good. God's good every single day. God's good no matter what you're walking through. Some of us, you walk through some things, you're like, man, where was God? And then sometimes you walk through some things and God's like, man, where were you? And I'm not trying to be all philosophical. I just, I'm not I don't have 18 years of seminary. I did my best to write myself out of seminary, matter of fact. I wrote some things I thought were pretty straightforward, and everybody thought that they were funny, so I figured I was a funny guy. I just, like circumcision. Circumcision of the heart was more important than circumcision, right? Baptism. I used to go to a church, said you got to get dunked 3 full times forward or else you ain't going to heaven. I went and bought a van one time. The guy told me I didn't speak in tongues, so I couldn't go to heaven. I said, okay. So, I'm just glad you love the Lord. That's all I knew how to say. That's all I knew. I had people tell me that, my wife's a black woman, and she's beautiful. Neither one of us liked each other when we met, but some of us people told us, y'all going to hell. I said, okay, I'm glad you know the Lord. That's all I know how to say. I know the Lord. I know the Lord since I was 6 years old. I accepted Him in my heart, and that's real early to be doing that. If one of my kids came to me today and said, I accept the Lord in my heart, I'd tell him, you ain't old enough to know what you're talking about. But something about when I was 6 years old, I knew just as much about salvation as I do today. I know more about a relationship with God. I know more about the full depth and the wisdom and the understanding of the Word. Man, something about that, knowing I needed the blood of Jesus Christ to pay for my sins. I knew at 6 years old. The reason I knew is because I saw some things in life, I guess, maybe at 6 years old that some kids shouldn't really see, so I knew. I knew there was something needed. It was something needed by just what we were able to do with our own hands. These old hands, they can only do so much. And I knew the mouth wasn't getting it because this does more damage than anything in the world. I know because I get myself in trouble all the time. Raise your hand if you get yourself in trouble with your mouth. You ever done that? I know Charlie ain't never. That mouth will get you, I'm telling you what. You want to get a woman mad at you? Say something. Yeah? I'm telling you. Anyway, so I had this message in my heart. I had to say, I was trying to put it together. I just couldn't put it together. It was real frustrating Because I don't speak once every 4 months, so I get a long time to put something together. And I only had 3 or 4 weeks for this one, and it came down to the wire. I felt like I was in a NASCAR race with bad tires. I didn't know what was going on. Anybody been in a NASCAR race? You ever seen somebody ain't got good tires? They try to stay on track a little too long with them? Bad day. You're not finishing. By the grace of God, we finished. We finished a message this week, and I pray that it'll say something to y'all. Hopefully I don't fumble through it too bad. We'll start off reading a verse. I won't tell you what the title of the message is until the end. Anybody you ever do anything like that? You didn't know what it was till you was done? Don't worry, we don't get baptized for dead people or nothing. Then this is where I stand. Oh, that's not the verse. All right. Ephesians 4, 17 through 18. Who knows where that's at? It's after the book of Michael. No, there's no book of Michael. There is at the house. My boys ain't after I get on, so that's out of the book of Michael. All right. So Ephesians 4, 17 through 18. So I tell you this, and I insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do. Who knows what a Gentile is? Yeah? Yeah, right? You know what a Gentile is? We have any Gentiles today? Huh? In the futility of their thinking, they are darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance. I want y'all to really pay attention to this word, ignorance, that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. I thought it was funny looking at this verse, one, because it's Old Testament, Ephesians Old Testament. Is that in the third Revelation? No, it's Old Testament, right? No? I was just making sure y'all pay attention. Ephesians, ignorance. Huh? Thank you. See, I knew somebody here that knew something. I'd rather just throw it up here and let y'all do the talking. No? But I thought this ignorance word really stuck out to me. Really stuck out to me. And it is funny because the way it stuck out to me is there's a lot of ignorance in the world and not in the world. There's a lot of ignorance in the body, the same as there is in the world. Now this obviously is talking about Gentiles, it's talking about the world, right? It's not talking about God-chosen people. But I've walked around enough God-chosen people, I know they identify sometimes with the world more than they do with the Word. And I know because sometimes I've identified more with the world than I did with the Word. Anybody ever done that? Nobody wants to raise their hand on that one? I'm telling you, I've identified with the world more than I have with the Word sometimes. Sometimes I blow my testimony. I was just talking about last week. I was talking about last week. I opened my mouth. Remember? We were talking about that. But they're darkened in their understanding and separated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them. That word ignorance, let's go to the next slide. I thought that was interesting because ignorance is bliss to a lot of people. I was having a conversation with somebody last week, and it's somebody that's real important to me, and I was trying to just encourage them in the Lord. And everything I kept saying, I don't want to hear about that. I said, why? You know, I'm not trying to browbeat you with anything. I said, but, you know, we're just talking about how to live a better, fuller life, how to live a life more abundantly, right? Isn't that what the Lord has for us? He said, I don't want to hear it because, man, if I hear it, I got to think about it, and then I got to change what I do. And really? I don't want to hear it. And that was from a believer. I used to work at a place one time, and a guy witnessed everywhere he went, every job, every house he went to. And you don't get to do that everywhere you work. This guy, he had an opportunity to witness every house he went to. He just tell people how good the Lord is. You know, the only complaint we ever got about him witnessing was somebody had 3 Bibles and a study Bible on their table. He come in the house, he said, oh, I see y'all love the Lord. And there, yeah. And they called up. You know what they said? They said, we know how to read our Bible. We get enough Bible around here. The last thing we got to do is talk about it with people. I said, wow. Isn't that amazing? You talking about the Lord with the world all day, but can't talk to another Christian about the Lord. That broke my heart. I was crushed. I was mad all day. I was like, Lord, we can't even talk to people that love you. Rough. And people sometimes will tell you, stay out of my business. You know what that means? Leave me alone because I want to do what I want to do. People don't want you in the business, especially if they're your youngins. And they're out of the house now because they know everything. And they make all the money in the world. But they keep asking you for stuff. Everybody like that? You got your kids always show up and they want stuff? Yeah. I won't call your name out. You're on camera. I'm just playing. That's funny. Kids know everything, but they need you for all of it. I know. I was one of them. I did the same thing. But what else the world said? Don't judge me. That's my favorite one. I walk around all the time and say, I need you to understand something. Observation ain't judgment. If I see you doing something wrong, calling it out ain't judgment. Now, if I pass sentence on calling out what I see you doing wrong, that's judgment. If I see my kid run around and smack my other kid in the face and lift him off his feet and he hits the dirt, I say, hey, you shouldn't be doing that. He turns, don't judge me. That's not judgment. That was observation. You come in here, I'll give you this belt. You understand a little bit about judgment. But that's funny. All this is people saying, I want to do what I want to do. Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know the what. I don't want to know the truth. Ignorance is bliss because if you don't know the truth, you don't have to be responsible for it. Ignorance is bliss because if you don't know the truth, we can go to the next slide. Ignorance is bliss because if you don't know the truth, is that the next slide? I might have mixed all my slides up. Yeah. Anyway, we'll keep on reading in Ephesians. I'll catch you back up later. Having lost all sensitivity, they have given themselves over to sensuality so as to indulge in every kind of impurity, and they are full of greed. That's Ephesians 4:19. I thought this picture was really neat because that's rebellion. Is that not rebellion right there? Is that not what we just read here? When people tell you, don't tell me nothing. Stay out of my business. Don't judge me. That's rebellion. People want to live indulge in every sensuality, every kind of impurity. That's rebellion. It's rebellion against the holy and righteous God that created us. Now, I know we talk to people in here sometimes that know the Lord and some people that don't know the Lord. But I'm telling you, this is rebellion. You live the way you want to live. My kid runs around smacking other kids in the face all the time when I ain't around. He's doing what he wants to do. That's rebellion because I didn't teach my boy that. That's not what I put in his heart. It's not the kind of man I am. I run around hitting Ali sometimes, but that ain't none of y'all's business. Don't judge me. Next slide. Nobody wants to be responsible. There we go. All right, now I remember why I had the other slide there first. Okay, we're on it. This is what happens when you're holding your baby from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. You're trying to figure out what you're going to talk about. But nobody wants to be responsible because there are consequences to knowing the truth. Who knows there are consequences for bad behavior? Anybody ever got a whooping? I never got a whooping in my life. My dad whooped my brothers more than I ever seen anybody get whooped. Man, I never got a whooping. I was the special one. They prayed for me. The special. I was the baby. I needed a book. I probably needed 1,000. I wish I'd have got some because I didn't decide I was older than 12 until I was 26. There are consequences to bad behavior, but there's consequences to knowing the truth. Consequences of knowing the truth is the truth will challenge you. The truth will challenge you to a few things in your life. And some of y'all might know exactly what I'm talking about. Because when you start learning the truth, when you start learning about the plan of salvation, you start learning about the gospel, you start learning that God set you apart. God set you apart. It challenges you to alter your actions. Who wants to do that? I wanted to do what I wanted to do. Now, that's why I'd rather be ignorant, because then you tell me the truth. Now I've got to change my actions, or at least I'm challenged to. Sometimes I have to alter my direction completely. Sometimes I'm heading this way, and I open my mouth and get in trouble and realize I should have been heading that way. But then I want to buck up. I don't want to tell her, because then she'd be right. That ain't allowed. Knowing the truth, sometimes it's going to challenge you to change your actions. It's going to challenge you to change your direction. Sometimes it challenges you to warn other people. Knowing the truth, sometimes if you know the truth, you got to tell other people the truth sometimes. Some of the people down there follow Bob Jones. One of the generals that was down there cleaning up all that. Who knows Bob Jones? How many people died down there? Over 1,000, right? About 1,300? Jim Jones. The general that came back was a Christian man. When he came back, he said, you know what struck us? He said, we were down there cleaning up 1,300 bodies. There wasn't one Bible in the whole compound. Not one Bible. Started off one direction, right? That's a sad thing to see people. Sad people. But if one person was drinking that juice and they realized that there was arsenic in it, they were challenged to change their actions about either drinking it or letting their kid drink it. Or they're challenged to warn somebody else, hey, don't drink that, man. I already drank my cup and it ain't feeling right. I mean, so many people might have been forced to drink that even after they knew the truth. That might be a little bit of persecution, right? You know the truth, there's persecution that comes with that sometimes. But these things I want you to think about. One is ignorance is bliss. The reason it's bliss is because nobody wants to be responsible. Because the consequences of knowing the truth will challenge you. Let's go on to the next. Ephesians 4:20 through 24. If anybody has a Bible, I'd like y'all to read Ephesians one time, because Ephesians is a good book. Bless you. My favorite book in the Bible is James. Because I can see that just blood vessel coming out when somebody's speaking that, just get excited. That, however, is not the way of life that you learned when you heard about Christ and were taught in Him in accordance with the truth that is in Jesus. You were taught with regard to your former way of life. What was the former way of life? Following every desire of your heart, doing every bit of iniquity you wanted to do. That was your former way of life, to put off your old self. Isn't that funny? Put off your old self. All things become new. Who knows that verse? That's Old Testament, right? It's funny because talking about putting off your old self, which has been corrupted in its deceitful desires. Because it wants to do, your body wants to do what it wants to do. Your mind does too. You just want to do what you want to do. I can remember being 2 years old and I want to do what I want to do. Somebody tell me to go this way, I want to run that way. Somebody tell me to bring the cup, I want to keep it. Anybody remember being like that? Some of us still like that. I'm like that with my wife sometimes. She tell me what to do, I say, I ain't doing it. To be made new in the attitude of your minds. That's funny because that's a challenge, right? It's a challenge to change your actions. And to put on the new self, it's a challenge. Go a new direction. Created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Who understands we serve a righteous and a holy God? Huh? We serve a righteous and a holy God who's perfect in all His ways. We can't even fathom that. We don't even understand that. Because we get mad at God sometimes we don't get things. You can't be mad at God unless He's done something wrong. God don't do things wrong. God does things righteous and holy. We're the ones in opposition. It's our flesh that's in opposition. But I'm here to tell you, a lot of people, I don't know how to say this tactfully. I don't reckon, since we're not a church, I have to say everything right, do I? I'm not rightly sure if, people say, don't give the devil more due than his word. Well, I'm telling you, the devil's got something to do with it sometimes. I'm responsible for all my choices or actions, right? He's responsible for everything he says and does at the house. Yeah? You don't whoop the girl for everything he says wrong, right? He's responsible. You responsible in your house when you speak or when you do? We're responsible for what we say and do. We're responsible for how we act. I'm sure y'all don't remember anything I said last year, but we were talking about your walk. You walk and you talk, right? It's got to line up with something. It's got to line up with this righteousness, holiness. Let's go to the next verse, or next slide. Here's another verse. Ephesians 4:25 through 27. Therefore, each of you must put off falsehood and speak truthful to your neighbor. That's like, when you speak truthful to them, it's like warning them, right? When you tell them the truth. For we are all members of one body. In your anger, do not sin. How many of y'all get mad and not sin? Now, I know half of y'all women in here, I know you can't get mad with that. Y'all on up to that one then. I'll tell you, getting mad and having righteous indignation versus getting angry and don't sin, that's hard. Do not let the sun go down while you're still angry. And don't give the devil a what? Don't give him a foothold. What happens, I'll be honest with you, who did anybody here sign my paycheck? I don't get one. Y'all don't sign my paycheck. So if my wife's meeting all week and I tell her, I wish you'd just shut up and die. Ooh, you think that don't set a fire in her? That'll make her, boy, that's worse than Florida red ants. I'd rather go lay in a pack of Florida red ants than tell my wife something like that. Because right then I gave the devil a foothold, because now all week he's got a playground in her mind. Because now she can't wait to tell me something back that's meaner. And if she's going to do something, put paprika in my spaghetti or something. I'm allergic to paprika. Sometimes I'm like, baby, this is awful good. She said, yeah, put paprika in it. So, I told you I was sorry, right? Don't give the devil a foothold. You give the devil a foothold with saying something wrong, walking wrong, acting wrong, thinking wrong, being around wrong. Who knows that being around wrong is wrong? Huh? Sometimes you be around the wrong people and they can, boy, you talking about changing direction. Y'all hear me say this all the time. My youth group said, man, I wish you quit saying the same thing. In 8 years, you say the same thing all the time. If you're a skateboarder, you hang around 20 golfers, you're more likely to be a golfer than stay a skateboarder. Isn't that funny? I hang around people who play disc golf now. I ain't got nothing to do with basketball. I like basketball. I don't know anybody that plays basketball. Everybody knows throws disc golf. I ain't no good at it. Ask David Moore. Dave Moore, though, won about 500 yards. Let's go next. There is an enemy. Who believes that? Who believes you got an enemy in your life? I ain't talking about your spouse. I ain't talking about I ain't talking about my wife. There is an enemy. The problem is, I can't wait for you to have a eureka moment before I tell you the truth. I can't wait for my boys to come here for 8 years and then decide all of a sudden, now it all makes sense. Heck, I keep messing up. Keep going to jail. I told my kids, you go to jail, I hope you like it there. I might come visit you. I sure ain't bailing you out. Not if you earned your way in. If you earn your way in, you earn your way out. But I love my boys. I go visit them. But if I taught you right, you better act right. If you don't act right, there's consequences to that. Am I right? There's consequences when you do things wrong. But if you wait for everybody to have that eureka moment, you might be waiting a long time, because somebody might not even have their mind on the thing that you've been teaching them. I can't sit here and play patty cakes with it, make it feel good, and play Veggie Tales for everybody until all of a sudden we start singing Veggie Tales, Veggie Tales. I got to tell you something. I got no belly button. Anybody heard that one? I like that song. I can't sing it real well. But to tell you the truth, I cannot wait for you to have a eureka moment. When you're waiting to tell people, I was listening to a sermon the other day, and the guy was talking about, he said, I was sitting there in church, and this lady walked her friend down and started talking, introduced me, and said, here's Patty. Waiting for him to do the saving. I invited my friend here. I told her all we do is eat donuts. She don't even know it's church. All right, do your work. Hoping that he'll say the right thing, and the person just, oh, what? That makes sense. I'll take my heroin out and give that to the poor or something. You can't wait for people to have a eureka moment. When you're faced with the truth, if you see somebody going 120 miles an hour down the highway and the highway's broke at some point because they haven't finished it, can you just wait on that person to have a eureka moment? Because as soon as they have that eureka moment, what's happening next? That's a done deal. That's a closed book. Sometimes you have to flash your lights. You got to warn them. And they don't want to hear that. The first three things we talked about, right? Don't get in my business. I don't want to hear that. Don't judge me. You'll get that. It's called pushback. Because people don't want the truth. Because the truth does what? It offends. And the offense causes the challenge, right? The offense causes a challenge. Either change direction, change your steps, change attitude, tell somebody else. We don't have time to wait for eureka moments because there's an enemy. What's next? I don't have time to watch you fall apart. Do I have time to watch you fall apart? I love you too much to watch you fall apart. That stinks. There ain't no fun in that. That's cruel to watch somebody fall apart. We ain't going to the next slide yet, but the next slide's awful funny. I'm going to tell you something about the next slide. But a lot of people say failure is the greatest teacher. Talking about some very successful businessmen gone bankrupt dozens of times before they ever strike it rich. I tell you what, instruction's the best teacher, though. Failure might be a good teacher, but instruction's the best teacher. What does God say? God says teach them in the right way when they're little, and what? They'll remember later, right? Instruction goes a long way. Instruction goes a long way. Can't save everybody. It's not our job to save them. It's our job to do what? It's our job to tell them the truth, love them. Gotta love them to tell the truth. Put your arms around them, even when you don't want to love them. Even when it's too hard to love them. Sometimes people ain't lovable. I got some people in my family that ain't lovable. Love them anyway. Every time I get a chance, I was telling somebody in here about somebody in my family. I won't say who it was and who it was. I said, man, they don't have nothing to do with me, but I'd hug their neck today. Wouldn't take me a second. Because I ain't got time, got energy to carry all that around. You know, you ain't got to like me. You ain't got to like what I do in life, but I love you anyway. I love you enough to tell the truth. Failure's a great teacher, but instruction's the best teacher. Most people want to see you do this next slide first. Rock bottom. I'll wait till he hits rock bottom. When he hits rock bottom, he'll know it. When he hits rock bottom, he'll know it. And then he'll change. You know what? Tough love works sometimes. But sometimes, fervent, effectual prayer, right? Who knows that one? That Old Testament? That ain't out of the book of Michael. Fervent, effectual prayer. Sometimes it's the persistent that makes the difference. Sometimes you keep going knocking on that door. You know they're home. They ain't going to come out because they know you're going to church and they don't want to go to church. Charlie's the best person I know about that. You go anyway, won't you? You just keep trying, keep asking. People get tired of seeing you come and they start ducking, hitting the woods. And every now and then. So you one of them fishermen. You one of them fishermen. I love that about you. You ain't right in the head, but you're a fisherman. Love me some Charlie. Some of your best friends, some of your best family, they want to wait till you hit this rock bottom because they know the rock bottom will teach you a truth. Rock bottom will teach you a truth. It'll teach you, number one, you going the wrong direction. Number two, you making some wrong choices. I'm surprised I went 40 minutes without coughing all over you guys. At some point in this person's life, he don't want to hear nothing from nobody else. Right? Do you want to be this person? You want your children to be this person? You don't want your children to hit rock bottom. I don't want mine to hit rock bottom. I know brothers of mine who've hit rock bottom. I know a time in my life when I was dumb enough to tell the Lord to take his hand off of me and let me have some fun and leave me alone. I know a little bit about my rock bottom. My rock bottom isn't as hard as somebody else's. Some people got some rough rock bottoms. Some people at a 100-foot cliff rock bottom. That's rough. That's hard to come back from. Hard to come back right from. But you love them, you tell them the truth. Love them enough. Don't wait for them to have a eureka moment. Don't wait for them to watch them fall apart because they're not lovable. Don't wait for them to hit rock bottom. Next slide. There is an enemy. I don't have the time to keep from offending you, and I thought this cartoon was cute. The more true something is, the more people are offended by it. What's this say? How dare you? Well, we live in a culture right now, you about to say anything that ain't. You can say anything unrighteous you want to anywhere you want to say it. You can be as nasty and stank a person as you want to be in front of anybody. You get 100 likes on Facebook, the nasty you are. The more stank your spirit and your heart is. Try saying something righteous on Facebook, man. It's like being out in the middle of a 100-acre forest. Nothing but chirping. Or somebody come back and say, oh, you one of them legalistic people. I said, no, I'm a loving people. I'm a loving enough to tell you you're doing wrong. I'll tell you what, I'm loving enough. I don't wait for my boy to do something twice or figure out the third time that he shouldn't have touched something. Touched something wrong the first time, I'm plucking that finger. Pow! My first boy is 2 years old. He walked into people's houses like this. People's like, what's wrong with your kid's arms? Say he knows better. If he wants to touch something, he'll point. Say, why? That's child abuse. It ain't child abuse. I want a kid breaking stuff in your house. I want him to learn to respect you and respect your stuff. Who thinks it's a good thing for my child to respect your house, respect your stuff? Who thinks it's a good thing if I teach my child when he's 2 to be respectful, when he's 10 I won't have to teach him twice? Who knows there's some people out there you won't never teach them because nobody taught them before they was 5 years old. That's funny how a kid by the time he's 5 years old, he's already got a predetermined process in his head about who he is, what he is, and how he's going to do things. By the time he's 5 years old. And what does the world tell you? The world tell you let them do anything they want to do. And then, when they're 12, then you can start tough loving them. Well, I'll tell you, you better start hitting the gas and hitting the brake early on. That's all I'm saying. I don't know everything just because I got 5 kids and I'm awful hard on my first one. I had to back it down a little bit for number 3 and number 4, 3, and 2. But, I was a little bit of the military coming in up front. It was a little hard. A little hard. But it was out of love. Some people, they'll hit their kids and they'll never tell them to love them, tell them your kid's stupid. You're stupid. You ain't worth nothing. I know people like that. My daddy said I wasn't going to never be nothing. My daddy said I'll be this, daddy said, my daddy hit me. I tell you what, if I ever had to whoop my kids, I hug them before I whoop them, I whoop them, I hug them after. And I tell them, you ain't a bad kid. There ain't no bad kids. All you did was make a bad decision, Bubba. Dad loves you enough to teach you need to make right decisions. I'm here to tell you, I ain't waiting for nobody to have a eureka moment at 45, 55, 85 years old. I love you enough, and I can't wait for you to have a eureka moment. I want to tell you the truth. The truth is there is an enemy. There's an enemy, and he's wanting to do something in your life, and it's not congruent with what you want for your life. Does anybody believe that? Does anybody understand the definition of enemy is not somebody who wants to sing patty cake with you? The enemy doesn't make you cakes. Of course, you look at our political, look at our world governments, and you don't know who's good, who's bad, and who's playing patty cakes and who's not. I don't know who we're training, who they're training, who we're fighting, who they're fighting. About 8 armies in the same place, we don't know who's fighting who. Go on, next slide. Ezekiel 33, 3 and 5. This is awesome. Talking about warning. I want to talk about being a watchman on the wall. Who knows? Anybody heard of that? Watchman on the wall? Watchman on the wall. That's Old Testament. Watchman on the wall. If when he seeth the sword come upon the land, and he blows the trumpet, and he warns the people, and whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet, and taketh not the warning. Does everybody understand that? There was a watchman on the wall. He saw who? ISIS coming down through the road with some swords. He blew his trumpet. That was a warning. He loved the people enough to stay awake, number 1. Number 2, he loved them enough to give them a warning, blow the horn. Whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet, and they take not the warning, if the sword comes on, and takes him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. So if you choose to be ignorant, you got the warning. You didn't have a eureka moment. You got the warning. You didn't heed it. It's because you chose to be ignorant. You chose to do what you wanted to do. Am I right? But he heard the sound of the trumpet, he took not the warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh the warning shall deliver his soul. Because if you listen to the truth, and you accept the truth, and you change your actions, and you change your direction, and you decide to be a watchman too, there's covering in that, right? It's covered in being part of the body and being watchmen, looking out for each other. My brother's keeper? Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's go on next. There is an enemy. I think this is the cutest thing in the world. I had to really wrap my mind around this picture, though, because this little cat said, don't believe anything they tell you. That little boy's looking at that water. Cat says, it's a trap. I thought that was so funny because that looks like my little Ethan. Everybody knows my little Ethan. He hates getting in the water. He screams to high heaven. And I can just see this little cat talking to him every time he gets in the water. Don't you believe anything they tell you? It's a trap. You think the world ain't telling everybody that don't know the truth? You let somebody get in a mile of here and everybody they know tell them, don't you listen to anything they tell you over there? It's a trap. Why do they tell them it's a trap? You can be able to do what you want to do. They don't understand that there's cleansing in knowing the truth. There's cleansing in the blood of Jesus Christ. Amen? There's a cleansing in the changing your actions and the changing your direction. What's this little baby tell that cat? You got to throw that cat in that water. That's what he ought to do. But we can't stand by without warning other people. I can't stand by without warning you that there is an enemy. Next slide. These are not three of my boys. The world's propaganda is deafening. This used to represent one thing, but it don't represent what it used to be anymore. It used to be, see no evil, right? Which means you shouldn't put your eyes on stuff you shouldn't put your eyes on, right? Speak no evil, let nothing bad come out of your mouth. Hear no evil. Don't put yourself in a position where you hear people that ain't right talking not right. Because it affects you. But it's funny how the world is, because the world now, it's not about you not seeing evil. They don't want to see the truth. They don't want to hear you speak the truth. They don't want to hear the truth. The world's turning this backwards. That's funny because the Word of God says, maybe it's Old Testament, said, world called good evil and evil good. We see that in this day and time. I mean, there's nothing new under the sun, am I right? But the world's turning all things that are good, all things that are righteous. They say, oh, them Christians, man, they persecuted people from the end of time. There's more people died because of Christians, blah, blah, blah. That ain't true. People lie to you if we swallow that hook, line, and sinker because we don't know enough to go study or look it up ourselves. And none of us like geography in high school. I didn't want to look back and see if that was true or not. People used to tell me that. Christians kill more people than anybody in the world. That's a lie. Atheists have killed more people than anybody in the world. Just based off Darwinism, based off elitism, power, greed. That's killed more people than anything in the world. I don't care what name you use for it. It's sin that's killed more people in the world. It ain't Christ. Christ died to save all the people in the world. This is what the world's doing. They want to tell you, keep your mouth shut. Don't say anything to them. Don't show them anything. Next slide. Ezekiel 33:6. But if the watchman sees the sword come, and he doesn't blow the trumpet, and the people will not be warned, if the sword comes and takes any person from among them, that person is taken in the midst of his iniquity. When you're waiting on the person to have a eureka moment because you're not going to be a watchman on the wall and speak the truth to him, he'll die in his sin. And then what? Oh, I'm not responsible. Ain't none of my business. Ain't none of my business how you live. It ain't my business to tell Robert to act right and stay awake. But his blood will be required of the watchman's hand. What does that mean? That means I'm responsible. If I know the truth, I've changed my actions, I've changed my direction. I can't run around and keep my mouth shut waiting on people to fall apart and hit rock bottom. I can't wait on people to have a eureka moment just sitting there all of a sudden like spontaneous combustion that they teach us in evolution. Just pop. Fish with two eyes came out. Next thing you know, you have a bird flying in a tree. That's ridiculous. Same thing's ridiculous with knowing the truth about Christ and knowing the truth about the gospel and not telling anybody because you're waiting on them to hit rock bottom because that's going to teach them. He stole money to buy drugs, stole money from my mama. Man, that gives you an in. That gives you an opportunity to speak life into that person. They're unlovable. Who understands that you don't need to save saved people? That's all we evangelize anymore. Half our pastors ain't pastors, they're not shepherds, they're game show hosts. I got a prettier field than you got. You come over here, don't worry, we keep the sheep and the wolves all together, it's safe. It ain't safe. Who knows a shepherd will break a sheep's leg if he keeps wandering off and leading other sheep off? Shepherd loved enough, snap his leg, carry him around till he heals. That sheep will learn and quit wandering off. Hardly these days, pastor won't tell you nothing no matter how you're living. Now, I'm not tell you his motives behind that. It might be fear, might be paycheck, might be whatever it is. I don't know. It ain't love. I'm telling you, I'm a shepherd for my boys, right? I'm a spiritual leader of my household. Does everybody know that's what a man's supposed to be in his house? A man's supposed to be a spiritual leader in his household. I lied to my wife when I first met her and told her, I said, I'll be a good spiritual leader. I lied. I knew she'd like that. The Lord's making me own up to it. I said, really? You make me work hard? I'm a shepherd in my house. My boy's doing wrong, I correct him. Now, I ain't broke none of their legs yet, but they go off the deep end too far. I ain't going to let them hit rock bottom. Love them too much. Now, I ain't to say that everything you say and do to your kids is going to make them walk right, talk right, and act right. Some of you in here know exactly what I'm talking about. Some of you seen some people, man, you could have lined the street with gold to the right place and they'd have fumbled around, hit every wall going there. It's still not made it in the right place. But they're responsible. But you were responsible for telling the truth. And we love them even when they're not lovable. But I don't want my hands being responsible for not telling somebody that there's an enemy. Next slide. What's that? Ezekiel 7. I used the wrong color. 7, 8. There we go. I know what I'm reading. So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them from me. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die. If thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will be required at thine hand. So he set us up here who know the truth, to be truth bearers, to be responsible watchmen on the wall. We're not waiting for eureka moments. We're not waiting for people to fall apart and hit rock bottom. We're not waiting for them to figure out that cat's dumb. That cat ain't got no sense. Next. People will die if you don't tell them the truth because Satan wants to destroy you. There is an enemy. That's his name. Y'all see I use a little s? I have no form of respect for the enemy. Enemy probably don't look like it. It's probably a lot prettier than that. And this is what the world think he looks like. He comes an angel of light, comes real pretty and seductive, whispers in your ear. Say, your wife ought not treat you like that. Yeah? You ought not put up with that boss. Why? If you want a paycheck, you better. You already do 2/3 of the work down there, man. You all just lay down a little bit, let everybody pull their weight. Tell that to the teams Peyton Manning's played for. Peyton Manning knows how to pull some weight. But if he'd have taken it off a couple of weeks, they'd have lost because ain't nobody else pulling up the slack. I'm telling you right now, Satan's going to whisper some stuff in your ear. He's going to come to your house sometimes. I swear he's at my house this week. He's talking to everybody I do. I still come through with the same thing because I watch my actions. My actions, my words, my direction. I tell people I'm outstanding. I can't wait for them to ask why. Man, I wish I was like that. So, man, if you knew the Christ I knew, you'd be outstanding too, even on your bad days. If you knew the reason why I was outstanding, because my daddy used to beat my brothers and my mama. When I was 6 years old, I asked God if he'd give me a son born on my birthday. And 20 years later, I married a woman who couldn't have children. My first son was born on my birthday. That wasn't a eureka moment. That was God reaching down and knitting my little baby together in my wife's womb. Because I asked for that. Can't nobody tell me different. I'll tell you right now, I know there's an enemy, because the enemy wanted to destroy my babies. My wife 5 months pregnant with my first son, and they said, you got to have an abortion today. He's tested positive for spina bifida. He ain't going to be a viable pregnancy. My wife called me in tears. You know what I told her? I said, well, you all listen to the doctor. He knows best. Who knows the doctor's a practitioner? I love doctors, don't get me wrong. Some of the wisest people you ever meet. But they're practitioners. They're a bunch of great professional football players too. Don't mean they're all good. Don't mean they all know the right pass to throw. Don't mean they all remember which receiver they was getting the ball to. I spoke life over it instead. I didn't tell her, you listen to that doctor. I told her, I said, you turn around and tell the doctor, said, our child's in God's hands. God will do with him what he wants to do. We're okay. And everybody knows, y'all see my little 10-year-old boy running around. He's healthy. He's healthy. And that ain't the first opportunity he had to destroy my babies. Next. I'll tell y'all a little bit about the enemy. 1 Peter 5:8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil. Not your buddy. Not your patty cake partner. Certainly not your disc golf partner, because he's going to ask you what happens when you lose the disc, when you only have one that day. The adversary, the devil, he's roaring around like a lion, walking about seeking whom he may devour. He's not seeking how he can just mess your day up. It's not about just getting you thinking half wrong. We think half wrong all on our own. That's my wife. I think half wrong all the time. Don't need no adversary for that one. But sometimes he comes in and he takes my half wrong thinking and he keeps whispering a little in my ear. Before the day's done, I'm stoked up because me and my wife been fighting in my head for 12 hours. I come home and you don't say nothing to me. I always works opposite in my house. She's the mean one, right? John 10:10, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. Say it come to build up. It's that Old Testament. I'm come that they might have life and they might have it more abundantly. Everybody knows this is Christ, right? This is the adversary. He just doesn't want to give you a bad day. He wants to destroy the foundation of the man being the spiritual leader of the household. He wants to destroy the foundation of teaching your children the truth. He wants to destroy the foundation of us being responsible for each other. If he can keep us from being a body, he can keep us from being a family, because he's broken down what a traditional family is. He wants to destroy it. He don't want just equal. He don't want us to give him a little fair share of the pie. I speak English. I can speak patois too. You gotta make me test it good. He don't want just his little side, so you can have your little side. We all got equal portions. He wants to wipe you off. That's what everybody wants to do to Israel, right? They want to wipe them off the map. They don't want to they only got a couple miles. Everybody wants to wipe them completely off the map. They don't want a fair share of nothing. The world don't want a fair share of nothing. They want to destroy you. The enemy, Satan, the adversary, wants to destroy you. He wants to devour you, your wife, your husband, and your children. You understand what that is? You see this in action in your life? I see it in mine. Next. Is there a next? Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That means my fight's not between me and you, is it? My fight's not between me and you. When me and my wife ain't getting along, my fight ain't with my wife. It goes deeper than that. It's against powers and principalities, against principality and powers, against the rulers of darkness of the world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Y'all understand the spiritual concept of this? We take two spheres. Your flesh, about this big. That's not true, is it? Your flesh is like this. Your spirit's just itty bitty little place. That's why you can't never win. Because you don't never feed your spirit. Now, I'm not purposely calling anybody out. I was going to say that regardless of who was here. We don't feed our spirit. I'm talking about me too. But we always feed our flesh. Amen. Who knows how to do that? I know how to give this fat boy here some Dunkin' Donuts, some coffee. There's some days I knew how to give his flesh a whole lot of other things it didn't need. There's some days I still. Who in here's right? Who's perfect? None of us are we? Don't expect no preachers to be either. 2 Corinthians 4:4. In whom the God of this world has blinded the minds of them which believe not. Those people who chose ignorance as bliss, the enemy of their soul has blinded them. That's what this is saying. Lest the light of the glorious gospel of Christ. Who knows who this one is? Is this our Savior that died on the cross and shed His blood? Huh? Said no man could take His life, but He gave it for us. Who is the image of God should die unto Him, should shine unto them. Christ died for you to have life, have it more abundantly, so that you can live eternally with the Father. He's the image of God. We were made in the image of, right? But we don't. Next. But this is what we are? This is what the body of Christ is today? This ain't hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. This is keep your mouth shut and don't cut your eyes at me and don't you say nothing to me. Don't judge me. Don't get my business. I don't want to be a monkey. I don't want to be a stooge. Keep my mouth shut. I want to hug y'all and I want to hug your children. I want to see y'all hug your children. I want to see them go to heaven. Who won't see everybody in heaven? Who won't see everybody live a right life? Not because they're worthy, not because they're perfect, not because they deserve it. Everybody knows I don't deserve nothing. If y'all knew how I grew up and how I acted and how stupid I was, you know I don't deserve nothing. Some of y'all are good and right and you're precious people and every little step you've ever made has produced a flower. I know you're just precious. I'm telling you, I was rotten. And I ain't even the worst of the worst. There's some bad ones out there. I know I married her. I know my brother's like that. I'm telling you, love people that are not lovable. Tell them the truth. You don't have to be responsible if they do the wrong thing. But if you were so tricked by the world deceiving you to keep your mouth shut, you waiting everybody hit rock bottom. God says there's a whole lot of people hit rock bottom. He said something about there being a wide gate and a wide path. And a little bitty gate, a little path. And there's the way. Right? And few go that way. You know why I think so few go that way? Because everybody going that way is keeping their mouth shut. It's not some grand secret. They're a secret. They're scared to death telling anybody else because they think they'll get cut down on the way. If you get cut down, who knows, you just get there faster. I don't want to be this. We don't have any more slides, do we? I don't have any more time. I don't have nothing else to say. I'll say this. I love God and I love y'all. I'd hug you tomorrow if you cut your eyes at me and act like you didn't know me. I'm okay with that. That don't hurt my feelings. You know why? Because I know my God's a good God. I know that even on my bad days, I'm outstanding. I know I'm outstanding because no matter what ends up in this life, no matter how horrible the week turns out, no matter how sick I am, how sick my baby is, no matter if me and my wife fought all week, God still loves me. Jesus Christ still shed His blood for me. He's still willing. He's still willing to teach me every day. You know how many times we slap God in the face with the way we talk, the way we act, the way we walk? slap him in the face. Your blood didn't mean nothing to me. I'll do what I want to do. I know he still loves me. Tomorrow he'll turn around and he'd hug me again. I love God. I wish y'all love God. I'm just glad y'all came tonight. I hope anything in this, I know I'm silly. I have a bunch of silly pictures. I get up here and I act silly. Sometimes say a bunch of jokes. But I tell you what, I'm honored to know every one of you. Honored to meet each of you tonight that I didn't know. I'm just thankful that I got to spend some time with you. I love you. Y'all have a good night and have a good week.